Could the Montreal Canadiens and the Washington Capitals be good trade partners? As discussed on TSN Insider Trading, the two have had initial discussions, and we might see some forwards going between the two clubs. We also have a notable player from the Maple Leafs on waivers today. There's certainly concern over the future of Jake Muzzin in Toronto. Will he be able to return? And the Boston Bruins have signed Mitchell Miller, who's a controversial draft pick from a couple of years ago of the Coyotes, looking for a second chance. We'll discuss all the latest news coming up next. Well, welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and some trade talk to take a look at here today. First up, one of the hot topics of the past few days has been the Ottawa Senators being for sale, the interest of Ryan Reynolds, and all that. So we do have an official statement now put out by the team confirming that as of now the team is officially for sale. I know a few days ago it was believed that that might not come for approximately another 30 days, but that is firmly in place, so it won't be too long before all the different interested groups can start talking to the NHL and start formalizing this process a little bit. I know a lot of Ottawa media believes that there's a good chance that this could actually be in place and done probably by the end of January. Of course, it makes a lot of sense, but by September of next year, they have to have the lease in place for the new arena. The new ownership group, whoever that may be, will have to be heavily involved with that. Obviously, the negotiation process is going to have to be factored in the cost to do this new arena, if there's going to be any public funding. There's lots of other things that need to be worked out here. So this is probably going to be a situation where the sale doesn't take too long to take place, given the high amount of interest that has already been made public here for this team. Lots of rumored people with deep pockets interested in being a part of this. Hard to say exactly how everything shakes out, but there is a clause in this sale that says that they will only sell to an interested group that will keep the team in Ottawa. So there's no chance this team is moving, which we've already discussed before. So there's lots of local interest as well as outside interest who want to have the team in Ottawa. So I know there's some fans in other cities would love to see a team become available for relocation, but that's certainly not in the mix here at all. So it'll be interesting to see. The next probably 4 to 6 weeks, we should get a much more clear idea of who's officially involved and where things are possibly heading for new ownership in the nation's capital. Now, as I mentioned, some interesting news on the NHL waiver wire today. The Toronto Maple Leafs have placed forward Nicholas aube-kubel on waivers. Of course, he was signed to a 1-year, $1 million contract after coming over from the Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. He was a big part of that. I mean, he wasn't on the offensive side. He was a bottom six forward, used to play more of a checking role, kill penalties, things like that. Good skater. Obviously, like I said, I don't even think he had any points in last year's playoffs, but still, he was a key contributor in other ways. Signs with Toronto, expected to be an important piece in that bottom six. I know a lot of fans were happy with that signing. I thought it was a good signing too, but things have not really worked out to the Leafs' liking here with this player. He so far has appeared in 6 games, has 0 points, which isn't too shocking. And if you're into plus minus, he's a -1. So right now, obviously, if he clears, he'll be assigned to the Marlies in the American Hockey League. I would think, considering the teams that are out there that would like to have an extra body or two, especially a team like we're going to talk about here later, Washington, they may very well look at a player like this. That wouldn't be shocking, or other teams as well. Aube-kubel is a player who's been around the league a little while now. Of course, had a real solid run with the Avalanche last year. Regardless of his role in it, it's still, he's a Stanley Cup champion, a player who got a lot of valuable experience last year, and I still think can be an effective bottom six forward. So I won't be shocked in the least if he is picked up and the Leafs lose this player to another franchise. So we'll see what happens, but aube-kubel on waivers today. Now, staying with the Leafs, of course, we know Jake Muzzin's missed the last 6 games after a collision with Coyotes forward Clayton Keller. Another, obviously in a situation where he got another bump to the head. And, of course, that's not good news. They've been calling this a neck injury. Obviously, he's had a lot of injuries between the head and neck area. That was talked about on TSN's Insider Trading by Chris Johnston. Johnston has said that Muzzin reportedly has seen specialists in California, looking at all the different head and neck injuries that he's dealt with over the years, and there is legit concern on his future. And if he were to encounter another injury, like another concussion, another head shot, or anything else similar to that, what that could look like and what that could mean not only for his playing days, but even, you would think as well a concern for his quality of life as well. Certainly a lot of players, they have more to think about than just hockey. You have to think about your family and your quality of life as well. So, we're not in a situation where we can honestly say that Jake Muzzin's career's over or anything of that nature, but there's legit concern, and it's too early to tell at this point. Will he be back this season? Don't know. Will he be back ever? We don't know. I mean, it's just very much up in the air. I think he's probably going to end up meeting, I would suspect, with potentially other doctors too. Usually players, especially if they're in a situation where they might have to consider sitting out a long, long stretch or possibly even ending their career, they're going to meet with probably several doctors to get several opinions, I would think, before they make such a major decision on their hockey playing day. So it'd be interesting to see how this goes, but there's certainly no clear-cut timeline at all for Muzzin. Obviously, there's lots of concern over the future of Muzzin. Obviously, the Leafs have to take all this information, and decide if they're going to use that LTIR cap space to find a defenseman to try to replace what he brings. He's a big part of that team on and off the ice, well-respected teammate, one of their leaders in the locker room for sure. And like I said, he's, obviously a key contributor on the ice, normally playing second pair minutes. So it's a big hole back there, but there's no way that they can really even afford to use his LTIR space unless they're have enough medical information to be confident that he can't return during the regular season. Because if he can, then they wouldn't be able to activate him, and that creates a whole other problem, right? So certainly, I think once we have a little bit further, information on this, they'll probably make a decision and go from there. But at some time over the next, 3-4 weeks or further into the season, I wouldn't be shocked if we get word that Muzzin is unlikely to return. Then at that point, they might move forward and maybe consider trying to find another D. But what are they going to move in to make that happen is the question, right? To get another, second pair defenseman that can play 20 minutes a night is not going to come cheap. Teams are not going to offer you, any sweet deal, so to speak. Defensemen don't grow on trees, and they're hard to come by, and they can often be pricey. So, what are they going to be looking at for making a move? Obviously, I think it's fair to say, as I've talked about before, this team is facing a fair bit of pressure. This is an important year. So next offseason, Austin Matthews can be extended, and getting him re-signed is at the utmost importance. You have Kyle Dubas on an expiring contract, the future of Sheldon Keefe as the head coach. Lots of things at play here to determine the future of this team. So this is going to be an important year. They're going to want to make sure they're in the best spot possible to not only get back in the playoffs, but hopefully finally take that step and make some noise in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens, but it could be a little while before they attempt to find a Muzzin replacement. Now, as I mentioned as well, the Boston Bruins have signed Mitchell Miller. And yes, that's not Mitchell Miller. That's the player who was drafted in 2020 by the Arizona Coyotes. Was a controversial pick. It was a 4th-round selection in 2020, and not long after the Coyotes basically renounced the pick. So they basically confirmed that they were never signing him and that they never should have drafted him, essentially making him a free agent. So the story with Mitchell Miller, in case you don't recall, is after the draft. Now, of course, I personally hadn't heard of what had gone down with this player until after the draft, but there was some talk that some teams did know about this and had him on their no draft list, or do not draft list, but there were some, I guess, differing reports, you could say, that some teams knew, some teams didn't. I don't know what was true and what wasn't in that regard, but essentially what was happened here is it was later revealed that he bullied an intellectually disabled child in grade 8. He was accused of uttering racial slurs at this classmate, physically assaulting and forcing him to eat candy that had been wiped inside a urinal, which is absolutely disgusting. In 2021, the family said that there was no apology. And now there's new statements that we can show you, and I'll try to find some snippets here to put on the screen so you can see, but I know that one of the reporters talked to the victim's mother and said that Miller had reached out to him via Instagram, attempted to apologize, but said it had nothing to do with hockey, which I guess they didn't feel that was actually the case. They felt it, certainly that he was trying to get himself a job in hockey, and that was what it was all about. I guess they don't feel like it was sincere. I can't say if it was or wasn't. But that's basically what his mother is saying. And they also went on to say that this wasn't an isolated incident. They said this was years and years of torture from Miller to their boy. So that's certainly not what we had heard before. If this is, a case, and I understand in grade 8, 13, 14 years old, lots of people do things that they later regret, and that, there's the whole debate over, should people get a second chance? And I do feel in a lot of cases at that age, you're bound to do things that you, like I said, that you later regret, that you can say, were really poor decisions. They were stupid, or, just bad ideas overall. Like a lot of people learn the hard way, so to speak. The thing here that a lot of people are upset about is that they don't really see a legit, genuine version of Miller trying to, really apologize and really own up to this and really show that he's grown and learned from it. Now, of course, I guess if you're Miller and you got your whole potential hockey future on the line, would you really want to just send an Instagram message, or would you not want to try to make, a better effort, I guess, at apologizing? That's, I would try to do this face to face, and really own up to it and really show what you've done to learn from it, and that you can acknowledge the behavior being as bad as it was and wrong and all that. So I don't know, but either way, there's a lot of people very unhappy here and not convinced that he has yet earned a second chance. I think a lot of people will, agree with me and say that a lot of times when you see, especially teenagers, do things that they, giving them a second chance is something that they can often earn and generally deserve. It's just this case is, I guess, a lot of people feel differently. Apparently Miller had a big year last year in the NCAA. Was getting a lot of interest from teams. I know Don Sweeney did speak to the media today after the signing was announced. And one of the things he said, which I don't think got very well received from fans, was saying that there was other teams that were interested in signing him. So why not the Bruins? They had said that they had not reached out to the family or the victim at all. That they apparently were, I guess, involved with Miller reaching out to him. But like I said, it just doesn't sound like it was a real solid effort, and the family, it doesn't take it as being sincere. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a real tough situation. Controversial player. Has he learned from it? I really don't know. I just know this has not been a good PR day for the Boston Bruins. A lot of people upset over this, but like I said, I do see a lot of people making the case of, second chances, making mistakes when they're younger and all that. But I don't really know what to make of this. I'd like to see, obviously, for me, to see him get a chance in the NHL, I think he really needs to show that he's sincerely apologized, and he's definitely taking enough steps to learn from it and be better. And I'm not sure if he's done that or not, but if he has, okay. But if he hasn't, then I don't know. This is kind of, after years of torture, according to the victim's mother, that to me is just, despicable. But let me know what you think. Should the Bruins have given Miller a chance? Should they feel like they signed him under pressure because they were going to lose the opportunity to another team? I don't know. Anyways, it's one of those hot topics, which I'm sure is going to create a bit of a back and forth in the comment section here and get a varying degree of opinion. So I guess discuss that will, and let's see what everybody thinks. A couple of injury updates. Mackenzie Blackwood, who's been much better for the Devils, was injured. Apparently he's going to be seeing doctors here soon. No quite word yet exactly what kind of timeline he might be looking at, but that could be a big blow to the Devils, who got off to a bad start but have been rolling lately. Their goaltending still hasn't been phenomenal, but they've been winning games because of their great possession numbers and getting a lot of offense from their top guys. So we'll see how that impacts New Jersey, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not quite sure exactly how long Blackwood's going to be out, but he certainly will likely be for at least a bit. The Capitals have yet another player out on a longer-term basis. Beck Malenstein was injured a few days ago. They've now revealed he had to have surgery on his hand and is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. So look at the long list of players in Washington who we're now going to talk about as potential trade partners with Montreal. You've already got Nicholas Backstrom. He hasn't been played this year. You've got Tom Wilson has not played this year. You've got Carlson's missed time. You've got Connor Brown went down. He's out for the season. Just a long long list of players in Washington. Carl Hagelin's another one. Like, it's just the walking wounded there. They've had so many, and TJ Oshie out long term now as well. The list is just crazy of the number of missed games and important players in the Caps lineup. And on Insider Trading, Pierre LeBrun was reporting that, as we know, the Montreal Canadiens have a glut of extra forwards on their roster, and they really need to shed some. And there have been conversations with the Washington Capitals, given how many injuries they're dealing with. So we're looking at guys like Jonathan Drouin and Evgeny Dadonov are in the final year of their deals. Of course, Drouin makes $5.5 million. Dadonov makes $5 million. Hoffman, of course, is on that list too, $4.5 million. They're the three main players Montreal would like to move on from. Hoffman has a second year on his term. Of course, it's quite reasonable that Montreal could retain some salary to make it more reasonable for the Capitals to pick, or any other team that, for that matter, to pick up these players. You know, if you're looking at retaining around 50%, they could have this player for like 2.5, 2.75, something of that nature, which really is not too bad if they can play up to what their previous standards really have all struggled this year, which is why they're in this spot that they are. But Montreal knew they were going to be in this kind of predicament, making all the moves that they did, of course, in the offseason. They knew there was way more forwards there. And, of course, they have some young players that they don't really want to assign to the minors or send back. Like Michael Pezzetta's been a healthy scratch. Obviously, they don't really want to take out Slavkovsky. So that they need to keep those guys playing, and to do that, some of these guys have to sit, like Drouin, like Hoffman, etc., like Dadonov. Like the Dadonov situation has been odd because it started off to me as a healthy scratch, then he went to being called a maintenance day, then now he's on IR. I honestly just think that he's done with the team and they're trying to find a deal, and that's just, I guess, not the most transparent way of saying it. That's just my take. I can't confirm that, of course. But either way, the Washington Capitals need players. Montreal has too many. It makes a lot of sense, but LeBrun did also mention that the Canadiens were also in touch with several other teams around the league, that they are very motivated and anxious to move on from a few of these players to shed the salary, of course, which will help their cap, and that way they don't have to have these higher profile, healthy scratches all the time, which is, I think, better for the team to move on from some of these players anyway. So we'll see what actually transpires, and if Kent Hughes can find deals here soon. But given the injury bug in Washington, it makes sense that they could very well make an excellent trade partner. So let me know your thoughts on that and everything else discussed here today down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis in all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.